There are a lot of English teachers online right now. It's like you open up Instagram or YouTube and there's a new English teacher every day. Some of them are amazing. They have the experience, the qualifications and the knowledge. But some of them don't. So how do you know which teachers are real teachers? After all, anyone can open up a TikTok account and call themselves an English teacher. And it gets more confusing because you can actually get a teaching certificate online in just a few hours. So in today's video, we're going to look at these teaching certificates, the CELTA, the Delta, the Cert TEFL, and figure out what they mean and which ones are real and which ones are not so much. One reason it's confusing is that so many teachers say they have a TEFL. And it sounds good. TEFL means Teaching English as a Foreign Language. But TEFL isn't just one course. There are many, many, many different TEFLs out there. Some of them are excellent and you have real classroom experience. For example, I did a TEFL YL for teaching young learners, and I spent 400 hours in a classroom with students teaching. I spent 110 hours in a classroom learning how to teach too, and 29 hours being observed by my teachers. So that was professional hands-on training. Meanwhile, you could go online and spend £7 and take a TEFL course in an afternoon. You just click through PowerPoint slides. There's no test, no teacher. You don't even see a student, no classroom hours, and you still get a TEFL certificate at the end of it. So that's the difference between a TEFL that you earn and a TEFL that you buy. So how do you know what's real? Well, it depends on something called accreditation. That's who checks and approves the course. Real courses are approved by serious organisations like Ofqual, Cambridge Assessment, Trinity College London, or universities. Bad ones are not usually accredited by any real organisation, or they even make up their own organisation to accredit their own course. So if you're not sure, just Google it, and if you can't find much, that's a red flag. When we talk about the best qualifications for new English teachers, we're usually talking about the CELTA by Cambridge University or the Cert TEFL by Trinity College London. Both of these are level 5 in the UK system, which means they are the same level as the first 2 years of university. Some advanced TEFLs, like my TEFL YL, are also at this level. To get a CELTA or Cert TEFL, you need to spend 200 hours in a classroom learning how to teach. And you need to spend at least 6 hours in a classroom teaching students while you're observed by your teachers. The CELTA is for teaching adults, and they have a version called the CELT P for teaching children. The Cert TEFL is for teaching adults and children. I have the CELT P and the Cert TEFL, so I'm trained to teach adults and children. So you can see that this is a serious qualification. You don't just learn English, you learn how to teach, how to manage a classroom, and how to simplify ideas so that students actually learn. After they've finished the CELTA or Cert TEFL and they have some experience, teachers can move on to a higher qualification, like the Delta, Dip TEFL, or a master's degree. At this level, teachers are designing courses, learning how students learn scientifically, and even teaching other teachers. So that's where TEFL Q comes in. That means TEFL qualified, actually qualified to teach English as a foreign language. To be TEFL Q, you need a basic entry-level qualification, like the CELTA or Cert TEFL, and you need an advanced qualification, like the Delta, Dip TEFL, or a master's degree. I'm TEFL Q myself. I have a master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages and applied linguistics. So that means I know about teaching and language on a very deep level. So if you see TEFL Q next to your teacher's name somewhere, then that's a very good sign. You know your teacher is really qualified to teach English and they've had lots of classroom experience. After a teacher is qualified, they can start to learn about one area. For example, English for medicine, English for law, or English for exams. For example, I'm trained in the IELTS with IDP, who are the co-owners of the IELTS, and I've attended seminars with British Council about each part of the test. It's very important for a teacher to know the area that they are teaching. For example, with the IELTS, I know how long the test is, how each part is marked, and the mistakes that students often make. So if your English learning goals are specific, then you should really look for a teacher who has been trained in that area. So far, we've talked about qualifications. And qualifications are very, very important. They show that you've learned how to teach. But experience is also very important. It shows that you have learned from teaching. You cannot be a good teacher with just good qualifications. And you cannot be a good teacher with just a lot of experience. A good teacher has both. So what about native and non-native English teachers? You know, being a native speaker doesn't automatically make you a better teacher. A lot of natives can use grammar, but they can't explain it, right? So in the beginning, a non-native actually has a small advantage because they have learned English themselves and they know the challenges. But once the native and the non-native are trained, that difference disappears. Both can explain grammar clearly and confidently. So a trained native English teacher knows about everyday expressions, real pronunciation, and everyday speech. But a non-native knows more about the English learning journey, so they can empathise more. What matters most is the experience and the qualifications, not the passport. Right? But here's a point. If you do have a non-native English teacher, it is completely fair to ask them about their English level. They should have a 9.0 on the IELTS or between 118 and 120 on the TEFL. That puts them at a near native English level. So I know I've spoken a lot in this video, but there's really only one rule to remember, and that's that real teachers are trained teachers. And an open and honest teacher will have their qualifications on their website, on social media, or you can just ask for them. And don't be shy to ask, what are your qualifications? Who accredited them? And how many teaching hours did you do? A good teacher will be happy to share that information. Now here's the thing about unqualified teachers. They're not usually trying to trick you. It's just that they don't realise how complex teaching English actually is. It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realise you don't know. These new teachers think they know a lot because they don't realise how much there is to learn. But a qualified, experienced teacher knows that learning never stops. There are thousands of English teachers online. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are still learning. But now you know the difference. I'm a TEFL Q English teacher with over 10 years of experience. I teach everyone from beginner to advanced. And I have classes and online courses in general English, business English, IELTS, conversation, and I even have kids classes. So if you would like to study with me, there's a link in the description. But whoever you study with, just make sure that they have worked hard for their certificates, not just bought them.